Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Central Community Alliance for providing this opportunity for us all to let you get to know us a little bit better. As we look at that video, it just reminds you of, it's a reminder of future promise for our children and all that's going to happen there, all the education and learning that's going to evolve through that. And it is to the contribution of so many of you in this room that was even possible. And I'd like to thank Mr. Gudo for his service to this community. It's very commendable, and it's quite impressive as well. My name is Jim Lloyd. I'm running for school board here in District 1. Show of hands, how many school board District 1 voters do we have in the room right now? Oh, we've got quite a few. That's fantastic. Okay. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about my candidacy. I think that our school system is everyone's business. And we all have an interest at stake in the education of our young. The very name of this organization is Central Community Alliance. Allies, not adversaries. And I think that as I've gone throughout the community, I've really had an opportunity to knock on a lot of doors and get to know a lot of my neighbors that are very concerned about the condition of our community and the direction that it's headed. And in some ways it's disappointing, but in other ways I see a real opportunity for people to get educated and to get involved, to make a difference. Anytime that you start a new community or a new school system, there are challenges. And we don't have to have the attitude that there's a winner and a loser, and that because we're for one particular candidate, that if they don't make it into the election process, that somehow we lost. We all win when we've got the right people that are interested in being involved in trying to make a difference for our children, our community, and the lives of others. It is a big sacrifice, and I'd like to thank all those that have gone before us in establishing the groundwork that it took. It was very much a yeoman's work and very commendable. We are one community that has shown its heart for its children here in Central. Understanding that without quality education for our children, the future is not very promising for them. By now, many of you have had the opportunity to review my qualifications, so I'm not going to spend much time talking about that. The newspapers have done a very good job over the past couple of weeks of communicating that to everyone. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of my ideas and some concepts that I'd like to see the school system implement going forward. I believe that exceptionalism in education starts with parental involvement. It's the parents' job to prepare children and give them the hearts and the attitudes that our teachers can work with. I think that that's very important. I recently went to a meeting at the high school that was a mandatory meeting for all parents that had students that were involved in athletics. I think that it should be compulsory that all students, all parents should have to meet with the teachers prior to the school year starting. We have open houses, but what's more important than a parent and a teacher getting together and partnering with each other? It's all of our responsibility to make sure that that happens. To look each other in the eye and say, we're going to covenant together, and I will do my best for this child. Will you? I think that that's an important concept. The window of opportunity is very small for our children, and we only get one opportunity at it. And there are no do-overs. Like so many things in life, we don't get a second chance at it, and it's important that it's done well, and it takes the parents' involvement to make that happen. I'm also a firm believer in mentorship. I think that cannot be expressed enough when it comes to parents' involvement, as well as community and business leaders, our elected officials. I was mentored by several men as a young man that made a difference in my life. They changed it in ways that I couldn't have never imagined. There was one gentleman, when I was 11 years old in Pee Wee football, his name was Grover Lee. And, I was one of those Husky kids. I had to go buy my jeans in the Husky section over in Sears when we were growing up. And I can recall him coming to my house one day after the season was over. And I was one of those shy, quiet kids that that didn't get real involved. We moved around a lot when I was growing up. I was a military kid, so every 2 years I was getting a new set of friends, a new set of circumstances. So kind of kept to myself and speak when spoken to kind of guy. And I'm thankful that God brought me out of that shell years later. But you know, when we look at that, when I look back at that coach, he came. I had missed the party that the team had at the end of the year. They awarded trophies, and he showed up at my door one day, knocked on the door, said, "Jim, I'm here to give you your trophy. I'm sorry you couldn't make it to the meeting and to the party." And he said, "I just want to let you know that I thought you were a good player. I enjoyed coaching you this year. I look forward to seeing you again next year." And like most children do, I didn't have much to say. I said thank you, and I took my trophy, went back to my bed, and I sat down. I remember sitting there looking at that trophy and just weeping over just what I consider to be kind words from my coach, okay, and the impact that that had on me. So I think that, you know, the power in a coach's words, or a teacher's words, or a parent's words, or a neighbor's words cannot be overrated. You know, it just, there's affirming words that, that as a young person, you have what it takes. I think I've got a real heart for young men, especially from the age of 11 to 14. I think that's a real critical time in a young man's life, that they understand that they do have what it takes and they've got a God-given purpose in life. Another gentleman, his name was Mr. Lou. From there we moved to South Florida, or Central Florida, lived in Orlando. And I remember a weekend to living in here. We didn't know anybody yet. Gentleman knocked on the door, and of course we didn't know anybody, so everybody wanted to see who's at the door. We all come to the front door, open it up. There's this thin guy. He's about 50 years old, all muscled up, brown as a berry, no shirt on, cut off shorts, no shoes, and he's got a Pabst Blue Ribbon in one hand and an armload of fresh dug potatoes in the other from his garden. And he said, "Welcome to the neighborhood. We're glad you're here." And of course, coming from a Christian home, we were kind of taken aback, and you know, what's this crazy doing at our front doorstep? But I will tell you that that man mentored more to me and made a bigger difference in my life over the next year than anyone in my family would have possibly imagined. So I'd like to encourage us to take every opportunity we can to speak wisdom, speak life, and speak love into our young people's lives. He taught me a love for gardening, and to this day, I wish I could go find Mr. Lou and say, "Come look at my garden. Come look at what you taught me how to do." I'm also a strong believer in vocational training. I think that we need to encourage more business leaders in our greater community to engage directly in partnerships with the schools and to you know, prepare students to be job-ready graduates. I think that's very important. You know, right now, I think that as a school board, we've kind of taken it as it comes on a lot of things. I think that we need to establish some school system goals on a 5, 10, and 15-year plan. You know, it takes proper planning and vision to accomplish these things, and I think that it takes experience and discernment, sound judgment, and the idea is that you usually hit what you're aiming for. I think we need to focus on our goals with laser precision and then audit and manage the results. I also envision a world-class high school for this community with 21st century technology, athletics, and arts facilities to match, where we train our young people to have broadly knowledgeable minds and to prepare them for the challenges for the future. I'd like to see us get so far ahead that there's not even anyone else in our lane, where we can be the benchmark that other districts are measured against. And lastly, we must have the community support to do all these things. You know, from the 75% of the citizens that don't have children in public schools, as well as those that do, we must be good stewards of what they've entrusted us to. I've enjoyed being here tonight. Thank you very much.